They called it the perfect crime. Not a bank heist, but a heart heist. The target, a lonely 72-year-old billionaire. Me, the weapon was a beautiful woman with a captivating story and a disarming smile. And the mastermind, the one person in the world I trusted completely. This wasn't a romance. It was an operation. A billion-dollar deception where every loving word I heard was just a line from a script. This is a story of how I, a man who built an empire from nothing, was brought to my knees by a work of fiction. And to understand how it happened, you have to understand a man who had everything to lose. I was Harold Hal Whitaker, a titan, a product of Detroit's grit. I had forged an empire from steel and sheer ingenuity. My company, Whitaker Dynamics, started in a small garage back in the 70s and ballooned into a $5 billion behemoth, a global leader in automotive parts. I was the kind of guy who understood the mechanics of an engine better than the workings of my own heart. I was a brilliant strategist, a ruthless negotiator, and a legend in my industry. By age 72, I'd achieved a level of success most people can only dream of. But empires can be lonely places. My wife, who had been the true architect of my personal life, had passed away years earlier, leaving a void that no amount of money could fill. My relationship with my only daughter was strained. Fractured by decades of missed birthdays and parent-teacher conferences, I'd sacrificed for my ambition. To her, I wasn't dad. I was a CEO who happened to share her last name. The silence in my sprawling mansion was deafening. Surrounded by monuments to my wealth, I was profoundly alone, and it was that loneliness that made me vulnerable. In an attempt to feel something, to connect with someone on a level that had nothing to do with stock prices, I did what millions of others do. I made a profile on an exclusive dating site. I wasn't looking for a fling. I was looking for a partner for my final chapter. I was a lion in winter, still powerful, but yearning for warmth. I had no idea I was about to walk straight into a perfectly designed trap. The message that changed everything arrived on a Tuesday. It wasn't the usual, awkward hello. It was eloquent, insightful, and flattering in a way that felt deeply personal. It was from a woman named Elena Voss. She was 28, with a photo that radiated both intelligence and a disarming warmth. She wrote, "Your TED Talk on American grit moved me. I feel lost without a mentor like you." The line was perfect. It didn't appeal to my ego, but to my sense of legacy. Our connection was immediate and electric. We started with messages, which quickly turned into hours-long phone calls that stretched late into the night. I found myself sharing things I hadn't spoken about in years. My early struggles, my dreams, my regrets. Elena was a masterful listener. She made me feel seen, not as a billionaire CEO, but just as Hal. For the first time in a decade, I felt a spark of hope that had long gone out. Elena's backstory was as captivating as she was. A Stanford-educated venture capitalist, she said, and an orphan heiress who'd been burned in a crypto deal gone wrong. Her story was a tragedy wrapped in brilliance, making her seem both worldly and in need of protection. She was a perfect damsel in distress, and I was the perfect knight to rescue her. She'd send me photos from her life in San Francisco and voice notes with a soft California accent that soothed my Rust Belt soul. Throughout this whirlwind romance, my lifelong friend and COO, Victor Kane, was my biggest cheerleader. Victor, 65, had been with me from the start. We built Whitaker Dynamics together. He was the brother I never had. When I told him about Elena, Victor was ecstatic. "You deserve this, old friend," he said, clapping me on the back. "It's about time you found some happiness." Victor's blessing was a final seal of approval. With my most trusted friend giving the thumbs up, I let myself fall completely. As our romance heated up, Elena's conversation started to change. She began talking about her passion for green technology, for a sustainable future. It was a world away from my life of oil and combustion engines. She painted a picture of a new legacy, one that could redefine the Whitaker name for the next century. She wasn't just talking about a business. She was talking about a movement, and she wanted me to lead it with her. One evening over a video call, she laid out her grand vision, a joint venture that would revolutionize battery technology. She claimed she had the patents, the connections, the vision. All she needed was a capital and the steady hand of an experienced industrialist. She needed me. This wasn't just a business proposal. It was an invitation to build a future together. For me, it was irresistible. It was a chance to merge my life's work with my newfound love. Blinded by love, I brought the idea to Victor. I expected my old partner's usual skepticism and cautious questions. Instead, Victor was shockingly enthusiastic. After a quick look at the documents Elena provided, he gave it his full support. It's a bold move, hell, but this could be your true legacy, Victor advised. Something beyond the grime of the factory floor. Let's do it. The plan needed to be fast and secret to get ahead of competitors. The first wire transfer was for $50 million, labeled seed funding. I signed the papers without a second thought. In my mind, I wasn't just funding a startup. I was investing in my future with Elena. It was the first critical step in a plan far more sinister than I could ever imagine. If you made it this far, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Because while I thought I was funding a legacy, the money was actually going somewhere else entirely. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. That first 50 million was just the start. Soon, Elena's venture needed more. Huge, urgent cash infusions to secure rare earth minerals, to fast-track patents, to build a state-of-the-art lab. Each request was more urgent than the last. Victor handled the logistics, drafting the paperwork, and telling me these were standard, aggressive moves in the high-stakes tech world. We have to move faster than the competition. How? No time to hesitate, he'd say. Guided by Victor and head over heels for Elena, I authorized the transfers. Hundreds of millions, then billions, were drained from Whitaker Dynamics reserve accounts. It was a hemorrhage of cash, all justified as a cost of building our new empire. But even through the fog of love, a few things started to bother me. A casual comment Elena made about her time at Stanford didn't quite match a story she'd told me weeks before. A photo she sent from a business trip in Tokyo had a background that looked suspiciously like a stock image. They were small things, tiny cracks in a perfect facade, but they planted a seed of doubt. One night, unable to sleep, I found myself scrolling through old photos Elena had sent. I picked one, a beautiful portrait she said a friend had taken. On a whim, driven by a gnawing feeling I couldn't shake, I uploaded it to a reverse image search. The results loaded, and my world tilted on its axis. The same photo appeared on a public forum for exposing romance scammers. The woman in the picture had a different name, a different story, and a dozen men claiming she had stolen their hearts and their savings. Elena Voss didn't exist. The discovery sent me into a free fall. First came denial, then white-hot rage, then a deep, chilling dread. I drove frantically to the lavish apartment I'd set up for Elena, the place we were supposed to start our life together. I used my key, shouting her name into silent, empty rooms. She was gone. Her clothes, her books, the personal touches that made it feel like a home, all of it had vanished. It was as if she'd never been there at all. I tore the apartment apart, desperately searching for answers. In the bottom drawer of the nightstand, under a stack of sweaters, my fingers brushed against something hard and leather-bound. I pulled it out. It was a script, professionally bound like for a film. On the cover, embossed in gold, was a title that made my blood run cold: The Herald Project. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside were hundreds of pages of dialogue, scene descriptions, and stage directions. I saw my own life reflected back at me in cold, typed print. I recognized entire conversations, word for word. The jokes that made me laugh, the stories that made me cry, the whispered, "I love US." It was all there, and in the margins, written in a sharp, familiar handwriting, were the author's notes. Pause here for emotional effect. Mention his late wife to build trust. Cry when telling the crypto story. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Victor's. Every moment of the greatest love of my life had been a lie, and my best friend had written every word. Clutching the script, I drove to the one place I'd always considered my sanctuary, Whitaker Dynamics headquarters. I didn't wait for an appointment. I stormed past reception and burst into the main boardroom, where Victor was leading a meeting. The room fell silent. I threw the script onto the polished table. "What is this, Victor?" I demanded, my voice cracking with a pain so deep It was almost physical. Victor didn't even flinch. He slowly stood up, a cold, calm smile spreading across his face. The friendly, supportive mask he had worn for 40 years just fell away. "It's my masterpiece," he said, his voice flat and empty of emotion. "You were always the star, Hal, the face of the company. But I was the one in the shadows making it all work. I built this place just as much as you did, but you were the one who got all the glory. I decided it was my turn." He explained everything with a chilling lack of remorse. He had studied my loneliness and my predictable desire for a second chance at love, and he wrote the perfect character to exploit it. He hired Elena, a struggling actress with a talent for manipulation, and paid her $10 million to play the part. The green tech venture was a ghost, a shell company created to legally drain Whitaker Dynamics of its cash. The money, now in offshore accounts under Victor's name, had been used to execute a hostile takeover. As if on cue, a video call chimed in on the boardroom monitor. It was Elena. Her face was tear-streaked, but her eyes were cold. The feelings became real. "Hal, I'm sorry," she whispered, one final scripted line designed for maximum torment. It was the last thing I heard before security guards, now taking orders from Victor, gently escorted me out of the building I had built from nothing. I had lost my company, my fortune, and the woman I loved, all in the same devastating blow. Harold Whitaker, the titan of industry, was broken. I'd lost my entire $5 billion empire, but the money was secondary. The real wound was a betrayal. I'd been played for a fool by the two people I trusted most. For a time, I disappeared, crushed by the humiliation and heartbreak. The man who had crushed competitors was brought to his knees by a whisper from a screen and a knife in the back from his brother in arms. But a fire forged in Detroit, steel doesn't go out that easily. It was my estranged daughter who finally found me, who sat with me in the darkness and reminded me of the man I was before the empire, the innovator, the fighter. Slowly, I began to pick up the pieces. I would never get my fortune back, and I knew it, but I could reclaim my story. I decided to fight back, not in a courtroom for money, but in the court of public opinion for the truth. I used what little I had left to start a foundation that helps victims of sophisticated romance and financial scams, becoming an advocate for others who, like me, had their hearts weaponized against them. My new purpose wasn't about building an empire of parts, but about helping mend the broken pieces of people's lives. My story became a powerful cautionary tale, a warning that our greatest vulnerabilities often lie not in our firewalls, but in the unguarded corners of the human heart. It's a chilling story of deception. So it makes me wonder, who was the real villain here? The actress paid to tell the lies, or the friend who wrote her every word? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you found this story compelling, please consider subscribing for more just like it.